Welcome to One Bills Lite, your by-the-numbers discussion space for the Bills and the NFL. Coming up, what does the formation of Buffalo's 53-man roster say about the team heading into the 2021 season? Steve Tasker is tested on the healthiest starting quarterbacks in the league and the most productive safeties in football, and we discuss which is more valuable to wins and losses, takeaways or third down conversions. Line up, everybody!
And it's Steve Tasker who has been all over the field.
Kind of unique. He was kind of a dual-role player for you. Steve!
A balloon.
Steve! A blimp? We're not even in the stratosphere of normalcy here. Thanks for joining us here on One Bills Lite, your numbers-oriented focus on the Bills and the NFL. Chris Brown and Steve Tasker here with you, as always. And Steve, we begin with the Bills' 53-man roster. It saw some shuffling after the initial roster was set on Tuesday this past week. But first, biggest takeaways from the makeup of the roster.
Well, they took a risk, released 4 corners from their defensive backfield group, but they brought them back on the practice squad. They're going to go a little bit, in my opinion, a little bit light at defensive back, 4 safeties, 5 corners. But they went very heavy at defensive line. I think it's a focus for the entire offseason. They've got to get more pressure on the passer. They've got to do a better job against the run. It all starts up front.
Yep, and 11 defensive linemen. I mean, that just puts a stamp on the whole dang thing, doesn't it? I mean, 6 defensive ends is not unprecedented in the scope of the NFL forming rosters, but for this team, that's a heavy number. And they traded away a defensive end prior to the formation of the 53-man roster who was certainly 53-man roster worthy.
Yes, absolutely. Bam Johnson was a guy that they had played well for them in the first 2 years of his career, played some reps, some valuable reps at defensive end, but also a ton of reps at special teams. He was a guy that was active every week in the NFL. When the guy was healthy, he was on the field. Yep. And they traded him because they felt like, and I agree, they're neck deep in quality defensive end pass rushers, guys who are every down defensive ends. We'll see if they take a hit on special teams and their coverage units, but man, oh man, it's a nod to what they think is important going forward defensively.
And while it's clear, based on those numbers on the defensive line, that they deem their pass rush to be important for success in 2021, is there any other part of the roster's formation that indicates what else might be important for this team's success this season?
2 tight ends, only 2 tight ends. Sometimes you have 4. You get 2 tight ends.
It's the lowest I've ever seen.
With a slash fullback as a third guy in Reggie Gilliam, and 7 wideouts. They're going to heave the ball. I mean, this is almost. It's, I don't want to say run and shoot. You know, it's not like that. But
why can't it be?
But they got a quarterback with a big arm who's a big athlete. They're putting a lot of pressure on every corner of the field, every snap, and defenses are stretched razor thin to cover them. So I think that's their philosophy.
Yeah, they are technically now down to 6 receivers on the roster after putting Marquez Stevenson on injured reserve and adding long snapper Reed Ferguson back to the roster, a common move that Brandon Beane has adopted the last couple of years where they just ask a veteran to hold their water when they make the initial 53-man roster, then make some IR designations and bring them back on. And they're just basically without a team for 24 hours.
That allows them to keep Marquez Stevenson. After 3 weeks, he'll be able to come back onto the offense active roster if they need him. But they don't have to.
Yeah.
And also, they kept Isaiah Hodgins also on the practice squad.
Right.
They've got him over there as well. So they've got young guys ready to step in if indeed there's a rash of injuries. Yeah, they're going to heave it around. I said, we've got it written on the whiteboard in the control room. 5,000 yards, Josh is going to throw for.
Extra game this year.
I may double down on it because they're because I really believe that's going to be the signature of this team.
Is there something you might have considered that you would have done differently with the Bills roster than what we witnessed this past week? Any configuration maybe that you would have altered slightly or felt safer with going into the season?
I still don't know if they've decided on the interior of their offensive line with Cody Ford, Ike Butker, and John Feliciano. They brought in some guys to help with that. Forrest Lamp is on IR. Jack Anderson they drafted. All of these guys. And I don't know that they've found anybody that says, wow, we've got to play those guys. So that is a concern for me going forward. I have a lot of trust in Feliciano. I know Cody Ford can hold his own at least, and Ike Butker played extremely well there last year. But the same interior guys down there, I don't know that your running game is going to take a big step forward.
Yeah. I've always felt this way because it seems to me over the course of the roster formations over the years under the McDermott Bean regime, they have historically gone light at the cornerback position. Now, they've been able to get away with it the last few years. It hasn't really come back to bite them hard. But I'm always looking at that, and I don't know, maybe I'm defensive-minded when I think about these things, but I'm inclined to go heavy at corner, not only because if you go short and you have one injury, I don't want to say you're scrambling, but you're trying to fill a void, and it's not always easy to do that. And I know they added corners to the practice squad to kind of insulate themselves. But the more I think about where this league is going and what the Bills and the Cardinals and the Bucs did with four wide personnel with relatively high percentages in terms of the history of the league, I have to believe the rest of the league is going to very soon follow. And I'm inclined to get ahead of that curve and make sure I really invest in top-flight cover players, whether you're mining for late-round draft choices, which the Bills have done. I mean, Dane Jackson, Rashad Wildgoose, even some of these other undrafted players that they've picked up over the years. I would prefer to go heavy there. I think they've insulated themselves with 3 corners on their practice squad that they can work to develop, but it's going that way. You're going to very quickly get to a point in time in this league where you are going to need 4 solid corners. Not top flight, but at least 1 top flight and 3 guys you believe in and trust, or because they're going to have to be on the field a lot more in this league going forward week to week.
Yeah, the league is more and more becoming about pass protection, pass rush, and matchups in the secondary.
Yeah.
You run and stop the run.
It's turned into a 7-on-7 league, right?
That's like a cave drawing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
cave drawing.
I mean, it's not going to happen. So now it's about matchups, getting your best guy on their worst guy if you can do it. And it's hard, and that's what it's about.
And I think we would agree, based on the population numbers we see every year in the draft, it's a lot easier to find those receivers that can run forward than the corners who can run in reverse.
They're hard to find. Yeah. Hard to find.
So just something I'll be keeping my eye on in years to come as roster formations continue year over year. All right, Steve, let's move on to the numbers game. It's time to quiz you on the healthiest quarterbacks in football from 2020. There were a total of 12 starting QBs who started all 16 games for their respective teams last season, which is pretty good considering you had the COVID concerns in addition to the normal injury concerns. So I want to see if you can get at least 8 of the 12 quarterbacks who made all 16 starts for their team last season.
Let's go. Ready?
I'm ready.
I will start and say, first of all, Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers is not on the list, Steve.
What?
He missed a game somewhere. He wasn't on the list.
Pat Mahomes.
Patrick Mahomes, no, missed a game.
Okay, now I'm a wash in a sea of uncertainty.
Well, there's
Josh
one
Allen.
There you go, Josh Allen.
I will say, wow, this is, all of a sudden I become Jared Goff.
Jared Goff is a no.
Russ Wilson.
Russell Wilson, yes. You got 2. Got 6 to go to get 8.
Kyler Murray.
Kyler Murray, correct.
I'll say,
which might be surprising. He got nicked
Ryan,
up a couple
Ryan
of times.
Tannehill.
Tannehill is yes.
Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins got through all 16 last year. Yes.
Yes. Okay. Where am I standing?
You have 5 of the required 8 for this numbers game challenge.
Lamar,
no. Remember, he missed a game for COVID.
Baltimore's let me down. I'll say Matt Ryan.
Matt Ryan did. Yes, he did.
Tom Brady.
Tom Brady is correct.
Have I got it?
So you have 7.
All
I
right.
need one more.
I will say Derek Carr.
Derek Carr is correct. So 8 out of 12.
Let me
You
see
want
if
to
I
try
can-
to go for
Yeah,
the
yeah.
clean sweep here?
Yeah. Okay. Deshaun Watson.
Deshaun Watson is correct.
Ben Roethlisberger.
No.
God.
Not Ben Roethlisberger.
I will say
Got 3 to go.
really There's that
Starting
many. Daniel
quarterback-
Jones.
Not Daniel Jones. Starting quarterbacks who started
Drew
all
Brees.
16 games. Not Drew Brees. Let's see here.
Teddy Bridgewater.
Not Teddy.
I'm running out of teams.
One guy is not in the league anymore.
Seriously?
Yes. Last year was his final season.
Oh, Phillip Rivers.
There you go, Phillip Rivers. Another guy is playing.
Baker Mayfield.
Baker Mayfield is correct. And one guy is playing somewhere else this season.
Matthews.
No.
The kid from Detroit. What's his name?
This is awesome.
What is?
Oh
I got,
my God.
Hold on, let me go down the list.
If you could
I
see
gotta-
Steve.
Let me get my glasses on. What's Matt Stafford?
There we go. The synapses have connected. All 12. Good job, Steve. All right. Part 2 of the numbers game. These players are the only 3 in the NFL who, since 2017, have accumulated at least 300 tackles, at least 10 interceptions, and at least 5 sacks. So over the last 4 seasons, at least 300 tackles, at least 10 interceptions, and at least 5 sacks. And the hint I will give you, they are all safeties.
Yes. Okay. I don't know if I can even name a safety other than Poyer and Hyde. The kid that went from the Jets to the Seattle Seahawks.
Jamal Adams
Jamal
is a
Adams.
no.
Really?
Doesn't have the picks.
Jordan Poyer.
Poyer is 1. 414 tackles, 13 interceptions, 7 sacks.
He stands alone, does he not?
One of 3 guys. Well, he kills it in the tackle department. Yeah. Nobody. These other 2 guys aren't even close to him in tackles. They are close in the other categories.
Who?
I think these are recognizable names for you.
Tyrann Mathieu.
That's correct. 300 tackles exactly. 14 picks, 6 sacks. You have 1 more. If you need a hint, I can give you one.
Give me a hint.
He is in the NFC.
That's a hint.
Well, it's a safety in the NFC. I cut the league in half for you.
An NFC safety. The guy from Tampa Bay.
It is not the guy from Tampa Bay. Who are you talking about?
I have
Antoine
no
Winfield
idea.
Jr.?
I have no idea. Safeties. Who knows? Who,
I will
who
go.
keeps track
I will.
of those guys?
I will
They're not
narrow
even-
it down to division. NFC North. Give me a good safety in that.
I can't name a safety in the NFC North. The Green Bay safety.
It's not the Green Bay safety. Guy just signed a big contract extension this past week with his team,
Oh, I don't know who that is.
for whom he has played his entire career.
Oh, so it's not. Okay.
As Steve takes a sip of his coffee, he contemplates his options.
I have no idea.
All right. It is Harrison Smith, the
Who?
Minnesota Vikings.
I don't even know that guy.
Oh, yeah, you do. Come on. He's been
Harrison
a good,
Smith?
He's been a good safety for a while up there. He just operates in no
I
man's
don't think
land.
there's another team other than the Minnesota Vikings that is further off my radar.
Yeah, really.
They stink in a bad division, and they're in the other conference.
Yeah.
And they've got
They had
they got a
a
quarterback that is a yawner.
Did they have a winning record, or were they 500? I can't even remember. That'll tell you how far off the radar they are.
They're
They're the Siberia of the NFL.
they're like
Are they worse than Cincinnati
They're
in
a
terms
blank
of being on the
for me,
NFL radar?
They're a blank page for me.
Wow. Yeah, so
Think
Harrison
about that
Smith.
division. You want to know why Aaron Rodgers is so good? He plays against the Vikings, the Lions, and the Bears every year.
I'm really fascinated by that because I think you're right. They are very much out of the normal stream of NFL consciousness. The Vikings are probably a team like that. The Bengals are a team like
Yes.
that. Who else would you lump in there?
Arizona.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
they're at the bottom of that division
Right.
constantly.
Yeah.
Now they've got a little buzz because of Kyler, but that's
Yeah.
it.
Do you put Jacksonville in there? Maybe not anymore with Trevor and Urban, but
maybe they got a little fresh juice because of those two.
that is the Siberian wasteland of the
The
NFL.
NFC North is just an absolute sinkhole of attention.
Sinkhole.
Just
Ah. Well, yeah, that's impressive. Only 3 players over the
I knew
last 4
Poyer
seasons.
was one of them. He has had Jordan Poyer has put together a stretch here in Buffalo that is top notch,
And
elite.
he still has not been
and he
properly
never,
recognized.
Nobody
for it.
looks at him. Nobody looks at him.
One of the most underrated players in
He
the
really
league
is.
by far. All right, well done, Steve. That's it for the numbers game. We now move on to the second numbers discussion and address which is more valuable to getting victories, turnover differential or third down conversions. I think we can agree that both are critical to success in terms of coming out on the right end of the scoreboard, but does one carry more value than the other?
Yeah, I think it's turnover differential.
You do?
I
Okay.
do. I do believe it's turnover. It's always been the holy grail for defenses. And third down conversion, while it is a little bit of a deeper dive into what's really going on in the game, because it takes into account first and second down and third and distance.
Yeah.
Whatever that is, third and short. And if you're going third and short all day, you do better than it was to be 3rd and 9. That tells you something about how your offense is playing. I get all of that. No. Possession of the ball is key, and I think turnovers are the biggest difference.
It's a little bit of a chicken and an egg discussion, though.
Yeah, it
when you
is.
think about it, because you have to get the ball back, first of all, for third down conversions to even enter into the discussion. But at the same time, if you get the ball back and you don't convert a third down, you're giving it back to the other team in 4 plays anyway.
Right.
So I think it's very much a chicken and the egg discussion here. I'm conflicted. I really am, because points are what wins you games, and you need more points than the other team. Obviously, if you're getting turnovers, you're taking away point-scoring opportunities from your opponent.
And giving them to your offense.
Right, but you have to move the football to get those points, unless you're getting turnovers deep in the opponent's territory, and even if you don't gain a yard, you can kick a field goal. And I guess that might be where third down conversions are rendered moot, but still, you'd rather have a touchdown than a field goal. So I think you can very easily go back and forth on this discussion as to what is more important. So here are some statistics to lend further context to the discussion. Last season, 5 of the top 9 teams in turnover differential won their division. So turnover differential certainly aided in helping those teams post
Over
enough
half.
victories to be the best in their respective divisions. Tennessee, +11, they win the AFC South. New Orleans, +9, they win the NFC South. Pittsburgh, +9, AFC North. Green Bay, +7, NFC North. Kansas City, +6, they win the NFC West. 8 of the top 9 teams in turnover differential qualified for the postseason. Every one of the top 12 teams in turnover differential last season won at least 10 games, which included 7 of 8 division winners. The only 10-win team that did not reach the postseason was Miami. As for third down conversions, though, Steve, last season, each of the top 5 teams in third down conversion rate won their division.
Okay.
Each of the top 5. Buffalo at 49.7, Green Bay 49.4, Kansas City 49, Baltimore 48.8, Tennessee 46.2. Each of the top 3 teams in third down percentage advanced to their conference championship games in 2020. Tampa Bay was the only outlier in that category. Last year, 8 of the 9 teams to score at least 50 offensive touchdowns and convert at least 40% of their third downs made the playoffs. The
Except
only
for-
outlier was Minnesota.
Who is off the radar. which
That's
we
right.
said, yeah.
So, with that in mind, Steve, do all of these statistics change your initial viewpoint of what might be more valuable in putting crooked numbers in the win column?
Well, here's the thing. Yes, both those statistics have a lot to say about how good your football team's going to be.
Correct.
The more unpredictable one, or the one that has more to do with the other team, as much to do with the other team as it does yours, is the turnover. So your turnover ratio, while it does give you an opportunity to win, the thing that says the most about your team is the third down conversion, staying on.
Right.
Scoring a lot of points.
You gotta stay on
hard
the
to get off the field. I mean, you look at the 5 teams that led the league in third down conversion: Buffalo, Green Bay, Kansas City, Baltimore, Tennessee. Yeah, that's
a group.
a group right there. Last year they played extremely well, and the only one that was out of that was Tampa Bay.
And they were not far behind.
Yeah, right. So you're right, and I was right in saying that the third down conversion is a deeper dive into who you really are.
Yeah.
And I think that shows. I think in that statistic.
Let me pose this to you, because I think you would agree. I'm guessing that you would agree on this. Turnovers also require a little bit of luck.
Right.
And
Maybe some mistake by the other team that
Correct.
has nothing to do with you.
right. So third down conversion rate is all about your quality of execution. Where takeaways, sometimes you're dependent upon the other team screwing up or just the bounce of the football on a fumble.
Well, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and another way to say it is that your third down conversion rate is something about how good you are.
Yeah.
You're a good team. You're on the field, and turnover ratio is more like breaks. You know, how many breaks do you get?
I'm reminded.
And you can make your own,
Yes.
but still.
I am reminded of the 2001 Chicago Bears. They just popped into my head when I mentioned luck. They led the league in takeaways that year, were winning games in overtime with lucky breaks, and went 13-3. And Dick Duran won AP Coach of the Year. And they might have been the luckiest damn team in football. Because I think Jim Miller was their quarterback. No offense to Jim, but I mean, that guy's not going to be remembered in the annals of quarterbacks in the league. And luck had a lot to do with their 13-3 record. And the next year they were under 500, and I think Dick Duran was out of a job. So I wrestle with that because, yes, I agree with you. I think third down conversion rate is a better indicator of the quality of team that you are. Although I'm sure defenders across the league would argue, hey, it takes some skill to get takeaways also. It takes
Certainly
film
it does.
study to get takeaways and put yourself in position to get turnovers.
Right.
But the bounce of the football, I think, adds a measure of luck to that equation as well. And so because of that, I might find my way to third down conversions being more valuable
Yeah, I think I might too.
to wins.
Because it's interesting because you're right. It's a little chicken and egg conversation because turnovers probably have more to do with what actually happens in the game. They spin the game in the direction they spin it, positive or negative, whichever side of the ball you're on, and sometimes there's no recovering from it.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's an unpredictability says, and like you say, a team like Chicago who can't play can go 13-3 with turnovers.
Yeah.
I don't know that a team, like Green Bay, Buffalo, Kansas City, Baltimore, Tennessee, I don't know that they aren't.
They're not dependent on
they're
luck.
not dependent on luck.
Yeah.
So they're going to, but like Buffalo, we played as tough a schedule as there was last year and still converted almost 50% of our third downs.
And led the league in that category.
Right. It says something about your team. And they win 13 games. And one of their 3 losses is on a Hail Mary at the end of the time. It's a fluke.
That was luck too.
That was luck. So, it's both of those statistics are hugely important in winning games. No question about it. They both say something about how the game went. But you're right. I think third down conversion says how good a team are you, and the turnover ratio says what happened in that game for that team against that team. And that, I think, take your pick.
Yeah.
But I'll take the third down conversion after reading the stats.
The Bills fans will like this because I think this is a fair argument to make. One could make the argument that with Buffalo's improved pass rush They could create more turnovers. And with the offense largely expected to continue moving the sticks at a high rate this year, they could be near the top of the league, Steve, in both of these critical categories this season.
If they are, there's no stopping them.
Oh, my gosh.
And then that's every team. That's every team, whatever team they have. But if Buffalo can do that, and they'll be back at the top of the third down conversion. Emmanuel Sanders gives them something on third down.
Oh, yeah.
And you saw, and I'll
saw
say
it in
this.
the Green Bay game.
In the Green Bay game, it was pitch and catch. And the ball comes out on time. Josh zings it, and he's got the ability to hit the big shot down the field.
When it's there, yeah.
The 31-yard drive ender to Gabriel Davis puts a fear in the defense that they've got to defend every corner of the field all the time.
Yeah.
And that gives you lots of space underneath to just dink and dunk to Cole Beasley, to Steph Diggs, to whoever.
How many times did we hear about the Patriots? When you're playing the Patriots, you can't make mistakes. You can't turn the ball over because they'll make you pay. Why? Because Tom Brady's converting third downs all the way down the dang field and putting points on the board. And before you know it, the game's out of reach and it's over and you've got another loss.
Right.
The Bills are kind of that team now, or at least have the potential to be if their pass rush comes through the way we all believe it will, this team could arguably be an even better point scorer than we saw last season. That'll do it for this edition of One Bills Lite. Be sure to subscribe on whatever podcast platform you use so you know when our next episode is available to you, or you can watch us and listen to us on the Bills YouTube channel. And remember, when you want to crunch the numbers on the Bills, we've got your answers. For Steve Tasker, I'm Chris Brown. We'll catch you next week, everybody.